Hey, it's Travis. Too many camp directors run just on gut feel. Our free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic is your dashboard for resilience. Take it today at camp.mba/Travis. Again, that's camp.mba/Travis. What would you be putting into your brain to keep you focused this summer?
This is CampHacker. Come find our show notes and our blog for camp directors and leaders at camphacker.tv.
A big thanks to our sponsors who make the CampHacker podcast possible. You don't lead camp because you love the office, right? UltraCamp has everything you need to manage your program so you can spend more time doing what you love. Manage staff, register campers, take payments, and direct communication all in one place. Find out more at ultracampmanagement.com/camphacker. Hey, Camp Pros. Just a note before we get into this one that we recorded this episode leading up to the summer of 2022. And we just never got to it in last season. And we thought it was a perfect one to wait and re-release right before this summer, 2023. So you might notice that some of the references aren't the most up-to-date ones, but after listening to them again, we thought that they were super and applicable and things that we all agreed that we would be focusing on this summer anyway. So we definitely wanted to bring this one out there, but just wanted to give you some context before getting into this one. We hope you have a great summer. We hope you enjoyed this season of the CampHacker podcast, and we are so grateful for you being a listener for 14 straight seasons now. And we will be excited to bring you season 15 starting in October of this year. We'll see you soon, and thanks for being a listener.
Hello, Camp Mavericks, and welcome to the CampHacker podcast. My name is Travis Allison. I am a summer camp marketing and strategy consultant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hudson. I'm camp director of Camp Highlight, a camp universally acclaimed and identified as the best camp in the universe. It is a camp for children who have LGBTQ parents.
That's a true statement. And my name is Gabrielle Rail. I'm one of the camp directors of Camp Waro. Camp Waro is an all-girls camp in the Laurentian Mountains of Quebec, Canada, and we focus on creating a positive environment for gender minorities.
My name is Joe Richards. I'm the executive director at Pierce Williams Summer Camp and Retreat Facility. Very small, tiny little camp hidden in the wilds of southwestern Ontario.
Hey, folks. My name is Matt Wilfred. I do some stuff with the Go Camp Pro podcast, and I'm also the director of overnight programs at Campfire Circle. We're an organization that serves families and kids experiencing childhood cancer.
My name is Dan Weir. I'm a consultant with Immersive First. I recently switched from 25 years of managing camps, overnight camps, and day camps to becoming a consultant.
Welcome, everybody. I am so grateful to have you here and excited for this topic. This is our final episode of the season. We have, as you heard, Matt as a special guest. Also joining us, returning to fill his seat again, Dan Weir. Welcome, Dan. Today, we're going to be talking about things that will help us keep focused. We really called it 6 pieces of media I will be consuming for myself or my self-improvement this summer. And so we're going to do a bit of back and forth. I'll ask everybody to keep track of their own, what you've covered. But we're going to start with and go pretty quick. So topic, very brief explanation, and we'll move on. So it's going to be one of those shows. So you're going to want to go to the show notes at camphacker.tv/podcast. And by the way, if you hear some stuff you like or hear something that a friend would like, please feel free to click on the share button on YouTube if you're watching us there, or when you're listening to your phone in your podcast app, you can text it to a friend at this episode and maybe tell them why you like it. So we are going to begin and go quickly. Just in camera order on screen, I am going to start with Matt. For yourself, this round is for yourself. What are you doing for yourself this summer? What are you consuming this summer just for yourself?
Yes. My list that I've made here is I'm trying to make it the realistic list because I have broad ambitions when the summer starts to be, I'm going to be there for myself. I'm going to be there for my team, and I'm going to be there for my development. And usually it's only I'm there for my team. So I'm working on that this summer. And part of that is making things really digestible and fit into a schedule. It's my first year. I don't really know what my schedule is going to look like, but I know it's going to be busy. So all these things are easily consumable. So my first one for myself is just staying connected with what's going on in the world, and specifically, what's going on locally as well. So if you are in Canada, I definitely recommend the Canada Land podcast network. They do a ton of different shows about what's going on in politics in Ontario, Canada-wide. They have different series that you can plug into. I'm a paid subscriber of their regular show that comes out on Monday and Thursday. And it's really great candor with the hosts. If you're in the States, find a local, regular, updated podcast that's going to help you stay connected. Whether it's like Up First from NPR is usually a quick one that you can ask your speaker at home to just play for you in the morning as you're getting ready. It just helps you remember that the world is a little bit bigger than in the property enclosure of your summer camp. So find a local podcast. If you're in Canada, definitely check out Canadaland.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. In screen order, I'm next. So I am going to pick, I was lovingly gifted a free course from domestica.org from Gabz. And I have spent a bit of this pandemic and its aftermath learning watercolors, which is, I love art. I've done art my whole life. I have never understood watercolors. And so I have spent very bad flailing in this. My goal is to paint 53 small watercolor paintings this year. But I'm taking a course on there called Creative Watercolor Sketching for Beginners. And it's been wonderful. So thanks publicly to Gab, who I've thanked in person. And I've actually bought 2 more watercolor courses since this one, but this one was a great one that I'm going to go back to this summer. Thank you. Joe, for you.
For me would be streaming services. So we subscribe to many because we live in the country and don't have great cable TV or great internet. But I'm looking forward to Barry on Crave, which is HBO Max, season 3, which has been a couple of years coming with Bill Hader, and going back and watching some things that my kids have recommended, from WandaVision to Loki to whatnot, and listening to my own kids' recommendations for me. So that is, and you can choose whatever streaming services, but those are where I'm going to be.
Wonderful. Gab, for you?
I'm also going to go with a TV show. It's Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. And what I'm loving, I've started it, and I'll probably take it back up for the summer. But what I love is that it's understanding where emotions come from, and how they impact us and how they impact each other. And I think at camp, we're in a sea of emotions, and I feel that this might help ground me. So Atlas of the Heart on Crave with Brene Brown. And she's a researcher, so I love stuff that is anchored in facts and research, especially when we're talking about emotions.
Perfect. That's great. I've already been sent lots of little clips of the show from friends and things. That's really awesome. Chris, one for you.
Now, if you're anything like me, you're busy. And I find myself falling away from like the cultural conversation. Like sometimes I'll pass a poster or I'll hear a news thing and I'm like, what's everyone on about? Which is exactly the title of my new favorite subreddit, Out of the Loop. If you're a busy person and you don't have time to catch up with everything, get on the internet and catch up with people who also need to catch up, because they are out of the loop. People on there are just asking questions like, what's up with that guy in front of the Supreme Court? And what's up with that senator who is doing this? Or what's the deal with Johnny Depp again? And everyone is as clueless as you are and asking the same questions. So if you're, like I said, if you're anything like me, you've got 14 hours of work to do today and you don't have time to attend to the news. So let other people do it for you. The internet, specifically Reddit, out of the loop.
Excellent. I am joining that subreddit. Well done. Okay. And then we will go to Dan.
For my first one, I think a lot about reflection in what I do. And so I think about The Daily Stoic is a book that pushes me to reflect every morning. So it's by Ryan Holiday. Mm-hmm. And the book basically is segmented by day. So you can literally go to the date and you go to today's date and you read the journal entry that's there. And then it's only about a page and a half. And it just causes you to reflect. So, for me, I actually keep it as a giant widget on my phone so I don't forget to do it. So I literally open my phone and it's the first thing I see. So instead of going to Reddit or TikTok in the morning or the other time sucks that we go to, I actually go to the Daily Stoic and I'll read this passage. Not always good about it first thing in the morning, but I'll definitely read it within the first few hours. And it just causes me to reflect differently. And the whole part of Stoicism that I really drawn to is they look at basically adversity as a challenge. You know, if you think of Billie Jean King, for instance, like pressure is a privilege, it's the same concept with that. That's what I like about Stoicism when you reflect on it, and it just brings strength.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there a particular idea that has stood out from that book that really made you think?
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this when preparing for the show, and there isn't, because every morning when I read it, it causes me to think in a way, and the way it's written, it actually always pertains to what I'm dealing with that day. And I think that's the most interesting thing. It doesn't matter if I'm at work or off work that day. It really always links up. And I think that is just something, like, as we look at our staff and we look at our campers, when we can find things that could help us reflect and draw out on ourselves, it'll make us a better leader and also a better spouse, partner, you know, everything in your life, you know, so.
That's awesome. All right. In the next round, we are, this is for your development. So it is to Matt for your development.
I don't know if I can match Chris's ability to sell the things that he's into. It's pretty amazing.
The doing is in the trying, Matt. So go for it.
Right. Okay. Do you ever find that conversations are tricky with you and people you work with? Do you ever find that it's just a little bit difficult to give someone honest feedback? Joe, I know not for you, but the Radical Candor podcast.
And believe us, Matt really knows, not from Joe. He's lived it. Sorry, Matt.
It's all good.
So should everyone.
The Radical Candor podcast is something that I wish that I had listened to when I was starting out as a camp pro. Giving feedback is always a little bit tricky, but for some people, it comes more naturally than others. I think it's fair to say. And Radical Candor is a theory by Kim Scott, which basically talks about you want to care personally about people and challenge them directly. And if you can find that perfect balance, then you have a culture where feedback is the norm and improvement isn't seen as something that's combative. It's seen as something productive. So if you don't have time to read the Radical Candor book or listen to the audiobook, there's a podcast where they actually break it down into snippets. So I put the link in the show notes to the podcast, and Kim and Jason break down the theory from the start. So if you switch your podcast app to do, I know on Pocket Cast, you can switch it to when it came out versus the latest feed, the chronological way to listen to it from the start. They're like 20 minutes. It's really great doing the dishes podcast stuff and stuff for you to think about. They do a really good job of explaining it, giving lots of concrete examples, and giving you a little action list at the end of each 20-minute episode. So definitely recommend the Radical Candor podcast.
That's a beaut. Also has been a tool of the week from Ruby from Camp Code. And so nice to re-highlight that one. And thanks for Ruby for bringing it to all of our attention. I think, I'm not speaking for you, Matt, but that's certainly how I heard about Radical Candor the first time. But
and maybe me too. Yeah.
Thing I'm doing for my self-development this summer, I'm reading a book called Get Together on how to and why to build strong communities. And it's a nice, simple read, you know, the kind that I like, with chapters and highlights and skimmable pages, lots of bullet points, but written by some people that have built some incredible online communities. And so it was recommended by a friend, sent to me by another friend, and I've started it, and I'm looking forward to finishing that this summer. I'm finally, after 2 years, being able to actually read things again instead of just listen to them. So I'm getting there. Thanks to some graphic novels, I'm getting back into actual reading, warming back up to it. So Get Together on the Power of Building Strong Communities. Again, go to camphacker.tv/podcast for the list of all of these things. Joe, what are you doing for your development?
For my development here at Pierce Williams, we have invested in Notion as a central relational database system and note storage, which I've mentioned as a tool of the week. And I believe, Travis, you mentioned it first. But I signed us up for a Notion mastery course, which, if you're new to Notion, it is just a plethora of information and walks you through from the beginning about how to set things up. And in a camp sense, the community there is really engaged. When I mentioned that I was trying to figure out how this works with summer camp, a whole bunch of that community is like, oh, we can help with that. And so we're working through in office hours and a bunch of stuff. So that's where I'm walking through this summer is Notion Mastery, which is also by a Canadian and is great.
Awesome. That's a great one. Gabz?
For me, I'd like to also say that I have a co-curator for some of my lists today. My local intersectional auntie, Caddy Diop, and this is from her. So Maintenance Phase podcast, which is really interesting, and it looks at looks into the diet and wellness culture, and they also debunk diet fads and per each episode. And I think a lot of camps do curate their own menus, and there's a lot of outside influences on what we should have within our camp. And I find this podcast has already helped me in having informed conversations with my staff members, even our dietitians, and also within my own personal life, I'd like to say. So this is a wonderful podcast. And again, it's also heavily researched, called the Maintenance Phase.
Amazing. Chris?
So I am going to recommend a book. I've read this book before, and I want to read it again before the summer. It's The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. I can't recommend this enough. Travis, as you talked about building communities, Priya Parker looks at exactly how we get together, and especially people in camping. Like, isn't that's kind of our business, right? How do we bring people together into meaningful groups? And Parker really breaks this down in her book, and is very thoughtful and intentional around gathering groups and building a community. And it is probably one of the better books I've read in the past few years. And I think if you are at all connected to this business or the business of having to gather people, this is absolutely essential reading. So check it out.
Pretty good. Excellent choice. And Dan?
Great. So this one's a book recommendation, but actually they made a fantastic YouTube video on it. Someone did, and we'll have the link in the show notes. But it's Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, and I've just noticed a lot with working with people, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that people are jump to conflicts now. People are very combative in their language. People go kind of instantly to aggression, whether they're thinking about violence or not. The communication leading up to it often can be de-escalated. So this YouTube video is perfect for reminder for yourself, for your staff, for anybody, on how to de-escalate and how to co-develop solutions. And so just can't emphasize enough how important that is to just keep reminding and not go on the roller coaster with people. It's easy to get amped up. And so it's just a good video to pull on when you know you're going to go through something tumultuous with somebody.
It's amazing. And I can see people using it with their staff, with parents and clients that they interact with, et cetera. So lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. And now what's for you? I'm lucky enough to have a regular camp director role-playing game every couple of weeks. It's about to go on hiatus for the summer, so I will miss them. But I have been looking for an online role-playing community that suits the way my brain works. It suits my campiness. Role-playing online has a terrible reputation because of the number of assholes. Although I must say, in the last 5 years, much is changing. I think that the D&D world, everybody who's focused on D&D 5th edition, there still can be a lot of hate. If you move at all into the D&D stuff, you get some really cool communities. One of which I'm going to highlight, the Gauntlet RPG community, is incredibly campy. Their code of conduct has this sweet smell of summer camp all over it. They are awesome. They have a great podcast. And it is, I'm listening back in the back catalog. It has become incredibly diverse. The people that are on that podcast from around the world, all different kinds of folks. The latest stuff is amazing. So that's one of the things I will be listening to when I walk the dog is the Gauntlet RPG podcast. I support them on Patreon, which gets me a little earlier access to play more online role-playing games with cool people. And so I appreciate it for that. Joe, what are you doing for you?
For me, I've started a while ago revisiting the entire catalog of Ursula K. Le Guin, and I'm reading the Earthsea series right now, which I'd never read as a kid. I bought the most expensive Kindle, the Kindle Oasis, so that I had better ability to do highlights and to read at night with a dark mode on, so I didn't wake my wife up. Right, all of those things, and so that's really the way I fall asleep and the way I can highlight, which then allows on the Kindle for it to come out with the to go to Readwise as well. So it's good stuff. And if you've never read Ursula K. Le Guin, I would highly recommend. Some of it is really like The Left Hand of Darkness and whatnot are really cerebral. And comments on society. Earthsea is more the young adult stuff, which is fine by me, right? Just mindless, but not truly mindless. When you chase your darkness to overcome it is a wholly cerebral thing in itself. So Ursula K. Le Guin's library.
Ursula changed my brain in high school. The first time I ever read a book where there weren't just two genders. And it was the first time that I was like, oh. And it was awesome. So I applaud you on that journey, Joe. It's really fun. Gab, for you?
For me, it's just like a simple, easy read, The Feel Good Effect, and it's a little book about habits that isn't too preachy and is designed to make you feel like you're not doing enough. Like it's there to help you say, look at the things that you are doing and sort of check out your own patterns, but you can also get it on Audible. And right now I'm just enjoying it and I'm looking forward to continue listening to it during the summertime. Helps with perspective.
Wonderful. How about you, Chris?
Run, don't walk to see the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh.
I'm so excited.
It's incredible. Yeah, I love Michelle Yeoh. She's one of the few actresses who I always believe she could walk in here right now and tell me anything. And what am I supposed to do? Right? Doubt her? No, she's a goddess. Anyway, Everything Everywhere All at Once tells a story of a run-of-the-mill, regular, aging Chinese immigrant who, through a confluence of events, gets pulled into a multiversal war where she is the thing that is stopping every universe from enjoying complete destruction. At the center of that is a very, very heartbreaking and overwhelming story about love and kindness. And I think it's a really important film for people to watch. I saw this movie like a week ago. It's already one of the most important films I've ever seen. It is phenomenal. I think as camp professionals, the overarching message that we can't be, I don't want to spoil anything, but we can't be everything and everywhere all at once. And the meaning that we create is the space between us and other people, which I think is the campiest kind of message that can be delivered. Also, hot dog fingers. So enjoy that. Zero context. Just go see it.
Sounds like one of those awesome movies to pack up your stuff and go to the movie together with a little time.
Oh, you'll laugh and people will be bawling like I was bawling. It's, it was fantastic.
Nice. Dan Weir.
My book recommendation is Getting to Neutral by Trevor Moawad. And Trevor Moawad actually has two books out. It Takes What It Takes is the first book, and the second book is Getting to Neutral. I spend a lot of time coaching professionals on everything from, I think every camp professional does this. You're coaching somebody, right? You're coaching your campers or your staff. But for me, when I look at the principle of coaching is really getting to a good mindset. And so Trevor's whole aspect of what he does is that is too much energy to get from negative thinking to positive thinking. Instead, you should get from negative thinking to neutral thinking. And so Trevor actually recently passed away. And so what's the most interesting about this book, I haven't completed yet, is they wrote it while he was facing cancer, and helped him basically get through his days. And I think when you think about the principles and leadership that we teach and preach, and you think about in all life situations, it just makes sense to getting to a really calm state is something that we could encourage every person to.
Yeah, that's a great one. All right, and we're back to Matt. Matt, for your personal development.
Yeah, personal development. I picked up From Stress to Resilient by our good friend, Dr. G. I know, Travis, I think you recommended this a couple episodes ago, but I'll plus one it just again in the theme of something achievable in a busy summer, because the book is designed as a workbook. It's not just a read and thinking and, never do anything with it. There are concrete actions with each little chapter and each thing. And these are things that we can also pass on to the staff that we work with and the staff that we serve, because everyone is experiencing stress at camp. It's just different kinds of stress, right? The stress of a first-year counselor when a kid says they want to go home for the first time, or when a kid says, I hate you for the first time. Well, how can we help them through that process? It's different than the stress I feel on a daily basis, but that doesn't mean it's any less important. So if we can help them through those things, and I can help myself through some of those things, to look at stress with the goal of moving to resiliency. I know that's Dr. G's big thing, but I think that's usually we think of stress just there's not stressed and stressed, and that's where it is. But resiliency at the end of that stressed marathon, I think, is an interesting concept. So I've already started, and I can't wait to keep going through this workbook.
That's awesome.
That is a great one. One for my personal development. This is a Spotify playlist called Study Beats No Words, and it is engaging music. It's kind of low tempo, lo-fi, electronic music. Again, no words. Sometimes you might hear an electronic version of a pop song, but really it's just every once in a while I just catch my feet tapping my toes. It helps me with my concentration. It is between this and Brain FM. It is the two things I do to get focused for a little while. And I love it for that. How about for you, Joe, for your personal development?
On the last episode, I recommended Urgent Optimist as a community, and that is what I'm recommending here for my own personal development, is to really dive deeper into that. And also, if between now and the summer, I can figure out how to run future thinking scenarios short-term with staff during the summer, I think there's a huge value. The more I read about it, the more I listen to the book Imaginable. I think this is something that we need to, as camp pros, really pay attention to. And I'm more than willing to be on the future thinking side of that right now. So Future Urgent Optimist Community, which is part of the Institute for the Future, and it is hosted by Jane McGonigal.
I must say, Joe, I haven't started Jane's book yet, but I haven't stopped thinking about it since you've mentioned it these couple times. So I'm glad you reinforced it.
I finished the Audible book one time. I'm about to start the Kindle book when I finish this Earthsea book. And then Urgent Optimist keeps popping up in my email feed and looking for signals of change, as she calls it. So that is what I'm going to spend the summer, this summer doing as well. So
good. So good. Gab, what are you doing for your self-development?
Loving the podcast, All My Relations. It's a podcast by Matika Wilbur and Desi Small Rodriguez. And it's a podcast where each episode, they invite guests and delve into deeper topics facing Native American people of today. And it's everything from getting real conversations to games, songs, laughter, tears. And I think particularly within our camp industry, we have to pay fine attention to cultural appropriation, cultural theft, and have a deeper understanding, not only on, for a lot of camps, the theft that that we've benefited from, but also not looking at Native American people from 100 years ago, but from today. And so this is really well curated. The hosts are very passionate, and they also have a strong tie to artistry, and that speaks to me, of course. So I'm loving this podcast, and I think that if you're the type of camp director that likes to share podcasts with their staff, this would be one that I think our staff would really like to jump in and learn from.
So good. Chris.
So the incredibly legendary movie Addams Family Values debuted in 1993, and everyone everywhere loved it immediately. And what I'll be doing for development is rewatching all the camp scenes from that movie. So blah, 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 the Addams family, a serial killer wants to take Uncle Fester's money. It's too late for spoilers. It was like 30 years ago. But the Wednesday and Pugsy get sent off to summer camp, and they have some adventures there, which are pretty legendary. Why am I watching this? Why am I suggesting why we're going to watch clips of this at training for my camp this summer? Is because this movie was made in 1993, and some of the tones that are hit in those camp scenes about racism and exclusion and bullying, unfortunately, in this new era, 2022, those things still echo forward. And I like to show this at trainings, and I like to show this at presentations to drive home that fact. And I watch it to drive home that fact. To me, is that I watched this this movie came out year one, I think, of my camp journey, and how disappointing, I guess, in year 29 or 30 of my camp journey, like these issues are still being addressed or trying to be addressed or like assessed to be addressed and are not being addressed. So it sounds like a downer, but the movie's fantastic. So enjoy it while also learning a very important lesson.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. I want to thank the folks at UltraCamp for being a sponsor of this show. You've heard me say this all season. If you can or need to improve your staff communication, then UltraCamp has provided a free tool. Pre-written prompts, things for you to keep in touch with them. Set yourself up now for a great year, keeping in contact with your staff and making your staff recruiting for next season easier. You can go to the UltraCamp staff communication calendar at ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker. When you're thinking about UltraCamp, you have to ask yourself, what is the reason why you chose to get into the camping world? As we've talked about today, it's not necessarily paperwork or budgeting or all that stuff, but that is why UltraCamp built their platform. They made it so it's flexible and affordable, as it is powerful, so you can keep your program moving forward. UltraCamp's pricing is transparent and flexible. It means that you can rest easy and focus on what's important, the work that you're doing for your campers. UltraCamp has a low minimum entry fee, clear pricing with no hidden costs, flexible payment terms, and no long-term contracts. So it's safe for you to try UltraCamp. UltraCamp's goal is to help their clients spend less time in the office and more time doing what they love. If you want to know if UltraCamp's right for you, they offer free customized demo sessions, and you can also set that up at the same address. Sign up and get the free download at ultracampmanagement.com/CampHacker. And Matt, how about one for you? Something for you for fun.
In the last year, I've tried to really audit my social media use and really pare things down, deleting stuff off my phone. I got really caught in Reels. I've never downloaded TikTok because I know that it would be a bad choice for me. But I try to follow specific channels that I think that I find value in. Either it's self-development stuff or just entertaining. And one media network that I have found really interesting and entertaining is the John Boy Media Network. And John Boy, he got famous from doing baseball breakdowns where he would like lip read what's going on. I have a like childhood passion from baseball, so that's how I got connected. But they've grown as an organization in the past 2 years, have brought on maybe 50 staff members. And one thing I find really interesting and exciting is the way that they handle their work culture. It's such a culture of play. They have tournaments going on of like kind of crokinole like games or like tabletop games that they have little brackets that go in the audience, and they're all sports people. So it's all broken down into like very, very specific, like double elimination scoring. They bought a warehouse and they play blitzball in the warehouse. And that it's just part of what they do every day, as well as being a sports media company. And I think it's this really refreshing perspective on what it means to be like an organization full of millennials and Gen Z people. And I think it's really cool to see how they foster that spirit of play in everything they do. And the media that they turn out is incredibly entertaining because they're just being themselves and they're having fun. It's not scripted, it's sweary. And, you know, for me to watch that, it's just kind of refreshing, but it also makes me think about how I can help make our camp have that kind of culture, maybe a little less sweary, but that there's games going on, that we can make camp one of the best and most exciting places to work, as well as being a place for kids, for all the good things that we do for kids. Because I think that's a way that we're going to retain staff, is that we make this such an exciting, amazing experience for the staff as well. So John Boy Media, check them out. And if you're okay with cursing.
There you go. I'm definitely okay with cursing. Mm-hmm. One for me is a book I finished this spring that I'm looking forward to. I think I'll probably start it again. Is called Light from Uncommon Stars. It is sort of it's a novel set in LA. It's kind of starts out as a bit of a family drama until things get weird. And then it turns into also a science fiction book. It's super queer positive. It is, I don't know, it's set in their current timeline, but it's also futuristic. It's hard to explain, but it is a love story. It is a story about families. It is also a science fiction story about a deal with the devil. And I hope you check it out. The writer is Raika Aoki. Again, camphacker.tv/podcast to find the link to all these things. For you, Joe?
For myself, I'm just discovered a podcast called Rumble Strip, which is hosted by a lady named Erica Hillman. I've listened to one episode which came out on the 99% Impossible stream, and it just is fascinating to me. Small stories based in Vermont, but when I went to subscribe, they have 211 episodes. So I listen to podcasts while I do other things like work in the garage or do jigsaw puzzles or go for a walk, right? Any of those things. So that is Rumble Strip as a podcast that I'm going to listen to for myself.
Beauty. Yeah.
Podcast that I'm loving, and I've mentioned this on, I believe, CampHacker before, but it's called Feeling Weird, and feeling there's no G at the end. And the individual that hosts this podcast, I will say, for lack of a better word, interviews people, but it's more of a conversation on how certain individuals experience the world. And why I love this podcast so much is it's extraordinarily kind. The host is very kind to himself, and he's very kind to the people that join him on the podcast. And it reminds me to be gentle with myself. And I love how they take the time to explore how different people experience the world. And there's something very, very calming about it. And I find during the summer, I can get quite focused on task. As much as I do care about my staff and I care about my campers, tasks tend to float to the surface of priority. And this helps me take moments of compassion, and it helps me first take a moment of compassion for myself. So Feeling Weird is something that I definitely recommend for myself to listen during the summer.
Good one. Chris.
In 2016, there were a lot of political changes that happened in the United States of America. I don't know if you heard about it. In any case, at the time, I identified that, compassion was definitely going to be under attack. And I had suggested to anyone who would listen that it's important that we listen to people's stories who are completely unlike us, because to reinforce the idea that, we're not all that different from one another. And so in that spirit, I will be watching, and I would be recommending We're Here on HBO. We're Here is a docu-series about 3 drag queens, Shangela, Bob the drag queen, and Eureka O'Hara, who go into small town America and the American West and the American South. And they find 3 queer people who are living in that town, and they work with them, talk to them, and they put on a drag show at the end of the week that they spend. And, drag in culture now has become a thing, thanks RuPaul. And it's often played for comedy and laughs, but parts of this but it really is a look at these 3 queer people doing the best they can to survive and thrive in an environment that probably doesn't welcome them. And also, I think it underscores the idea, which, I often hear when I talk about queer stuff, is like, it's fine. It's just like people should keep it quiet. And I think it's important to remember that all of us deserve to live our lives out loud, to live our lives in public. And this is just such a celebration of queer people, for sure, but also it's a celebration of humanity and the power of community and love and understanding. So check it out, please.
It's such a beautiful show. I've been watching it as well. And also how these 3 individuals take on a community, and they take them on with kindness and with love. And it's very inspiring. I love that show too, Chris.
And you will laugh and you will cry.
And you'll say, where is my sparkles? I need them now.
And then you'll immediately get into full drag.
Yes.
That's excellent. I look forward to checking that out too. How about for you, Dan?
Yeah. So I love music. Music is a respite for me. It charges me up, and just for me, life is music, and so I love discovering new music. And I think one of the most interesting things we are in right now is this time period where music is coming from 8 million different channels, and someone can just put their stuff on Spotify and become famous, or TikTok, right? So All Songs Considered podcast by NPR. They do a few episodes overall, but every Friday they release a New Music Friday episode, and they play the best of what's coming out. And Bob Boylan is the host of that, and has been for quite some time. And it's somebody I take a lot of comfort in. So and hearing him talk about music, and we have pretty similar tastes, and just nice to hear new things. And I'll usually listen to the album for the week, and if it clicks, it stays with me, and I'll go on to buy their LP. And if not, I'll just kind of move on from it. But just nice to kind of keep hearing new things. It's also just nice to not think about leadership always, and think about just things that bring you joy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I imagine lots of folks who don't know NPR, or more specifically don't know All Songs Considered, may know one of their biggest spinoffs, the Tiny Desk concert.
Yes. The Tiny Desk concert, it was born from this podcast, actually. So it was a one-off episode. It took off, and then they just kept doing it. And so Bob Boylan's often the introduction for that. So,
right. Yeah. And it's fun to check out Tiny Desk, just to I need something new, and go to the Tiny Desk and put their shows on. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. And for you, Matt, what is something that you're doing for your personal development? Last round.
Well, I got to thank Joe for this one, because when I was working at Pierce Williams, we got onto the Clifton Strengths Finder that Gallup has been doing the research behind. And one of my organizational goals this year is to help bring that to our organization as a whole. So Campfire Circle, we're about 80 employees. And we're also looking at how we can kind of bring the theory of strengths to our seasonal staff. And I've done some of the training. Joe and I have trained staff on it before, but I really want to dig into the literature behind it and how they did the research and those kinds of things, because when I did my assessment to find my top 5 strengths, I think at the time, Joe, it only cost us $5 to do it. It's $28 now to do your top 5, which is fine.
Top 5 themes, not strengths. Top five themes.
Thank you. My top 5 themes. It changed my life. It really changed the way that I saw myself and understood why I'm good at some things and why I'm not good at some things, and how to surround myself with people that don't have the same strengths as mine. And working with Joe was really exciting because our top 5 themes, I think, couldn't have been more different. Joe is very in the strategic theme. I'm in the relationship and executing theme. And it's why we worked well together. And it's why we were able to do certain things. And I was able to stop kicking myself for not being the most strategic, futuristic planner and thinker, because I could just find other people that would help me with that, and surround myself in that way. It's a wonderful thing. I recommend you do the top 5 themes. It's worth the little bit of money that it is. And maybe I'll report back this time next year about how to bring it into your organization with some of this. So I recommended the book in the link, but I'll also put in the link to get your top 5 themes in there as well.
And if you want access to resources, just let us know.
Right on. We'll make sure that our editor puts the link in the show notes for that. I'll also shout out to Jen Selke, who has been a guest on CampHacker many times, who is an instructor and really brought this into the camp world with a bang. And so shout out to Jen for that.
Yeah, and Jen was willing to share all of her resources as well. So that was
amazing.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, one for my personal development. There we go. I'm on track. This is the Against the Rules podcast with Michael Lewis. Some of you may recognize Michael Lewis's work, maybe more than his name. He was the author of Moneyball and The Big Short, 2 interesting books that were made into movies. He wrote a book about Wall Street that got a lot of attention too, that I'm blanking on the name of. But he puts out a new podcast called Against the Rules in the last few years. The new season is about experts and why we no longer believe in them, even though we need them more than ever. And it's a fascinating show, really good investigative stuff. He's great on the radio. And so I recommend you check it out. One of those makes you go, podcasts that you can use to fill in some time when you're looking for a bit of a stimulator, that makes you reconsider things, but isn't like super heavy. It's not one of those shows where I feel like I have to listen to it at 1x speed with a notebook, but still gives me lots of inspiring ideas. So Against the Rules with Michael Lewis. And for you, Joe?
For me, YouTube is a bit of everything, and TikTok, actually, when Matt mentioned it, it's how you use any big streaming service. And so for YouTube, I've put 5 sort of channels into the show notes, from Van Neistat to yo-yo trips. My daughter, my 17-year-old daughter, oddly enough, we are learning a new yo-yo trick every week between now and the summer, so she can be the yo-yo person. Amazing. That's not me at camp. Yeah. And I'm all in for that. I'm like, yeah, like go to first year at university and be the yo-yo lady. But there's a lot of making stuff on YouTube. And I watch because that's where I'm interested, because it also helps camp, right? I make a ton of things for camp. We're about to make a DJ booth for our morning radio show out of an old library cart with speakers that slide out to the side. So everything's in one thing. We're super excited by that. And the same with TikTok. If you have self-control and you know how to, you can do things. And I have 140 favorited videos, not just liked, but saved videos that are applicable to camp stuff, or to personal stuff. And you can scroll those. So the only thing I wish YouTube had, which I just looked up like a second before I started speaking, is how to sort videos by time, because I find YouTube is a place to go to kill 10 minutes when I need, 10 minutes. And there are bookmarklets that can do that. And so I'll keep you updated on that. But I just want to be like, I need a 5-minute video before I get up and walk away and go from there. But so YouTube, there's a bunch of maker stuff in the show notes, and yo-yo tricks. But interesting information.
Awesome. Gab, what are you doing for your last personal development one?
My last personal development is a podcast called the Neurodiversity Podcast. It's truly a podcast that helps with the understanding of those neurospicy people that are at your camp. And they use psychologists.
And on your podcast?
Yes, and on your podcast. They use psychologists, educators, individuals that live with learning differences. And what I love about this is that they come from all different areas of focus, and it's helped me to understand how to maybe create a more welcoming environment for our campers and staff members, how to train our staff members. I've been very open that I have learning differences, but having a learning difference and actually creating a space where people can absorb information fully, and not only absorb it, but express themselves. I'm finding this a great tool, and I'm sharing this with, in camp, we have, a lot of us have friends that are teachers. And so this has been a lot of my camp friends who are now teachers. It's a sort of a fan favorite. And we talk about different episodes that we've listened to. So I'm loving this podcast, and I think it could be really helpful for camp pros.
That is so good. Chris, your final thing for your personal development.
So this is going to be like a quick recap because I've already recommended this book here. Also, I'm going to sneak into, I'm so sorry, but really quickly. So the first one is
Joe does it all the time.
Yeah,
Joe's done it like 4 times this time.
That's true. So I'm going to sneak in Inclusive Conversations by Mary Frances Winter. I recommended this a couple of weeks ago. This is, listen, I work with a lot of camps around diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. And this is always the book I recommend that they buy and they distribute to their senior staff. It's such a great primer on how to talk about inclusivity, why belonging matters, like how to actually move forward and create spaces where we can have these conversations at camp. It's a fantastic book. It's very easily digestible. Get it. And I don't want this to be a Jane McGonigal Stan podcast, but Joe keeps talking about that book Imaginable, and I downloaded it yesterday, and that is what I'll be using for my professional development. It's a very large book, so, and with summer coming up, it will take me literally months to read, but I'm so down for it.
Sweet.
Yeah, you get royalties now, Joe. That's great. Is she a sponsor yet? Because we talk about her every week.
No, but I have put her name forward to speak at the OCA conference. I think that.
Oh, yes.
I think us as camping people, this is where, as someone who's thought about the future of camp for well over a decade now,
yes,
this is the most concrete thing I can recommend.
Love it.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yes. And if you're on the Tri-State or ACA National program team, you could put that down as a great idea too.
I bet I can get that
I would
conversation
actually
going.
attend.
Yeah, I think so.
I would actually attend.
Oh, let's hang out. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of Tri-State, former Tri-State president Dan Weir.
Great. So this is a podcast. It's called David Goggins Getting Interviewed. And so David Goggins, he is one of the most intriguing stories. He basically became famous from living with an entrepreneur in the book, Living with a SEAL. The entrepreneur hired him to live with his family for 30 days because of how resilient he was. And when he saw how that worked out, basically, he kind of steals the show in the book. He ends up becoming his own celebrity. He ends up writing a book, It Can't Hurt Me. He does all this public speaking now. And he's very raw in his style. He curses a lot, for instance, but quite a bit. I actually have to be very hesitant when I share him with people. But for me, this podcast actually is tapped into his best interviews because he does a lot of web clips that are 2 minutes long, but this is very much more long interviews, like 45-minute long interviews. And, the one just posted by this podcast was incredible. I've actually listened to it twice. So David's whole mindset is that you can't let things defeat you and you have to get back up, but in a real authentic way that I haven't heard a voice like him talk about it, and I think we all face challenges as we move through life and this career, and this is one of those ones that just charges me up every time I listen to it.
Yeah, and you've sent his stuff to me a number of times, and it is raw, of course. But yeah, it's great stuff, and it's a great suggestion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to thank the 6 of you, well, the 5 of you and me, the 5 of you for sharing so many ideas. I want to thank you for an amazing season and what a gift to the camp community that you all have been this year. Special thanks to Matt for holding us all together and making us sound smarter, making us sound concise, less ummy. I don't know what it is, but we're grateful for you for all that you do. Before I say goodbye, I want to take a second to talk about another Go Camp Pro show. And since we have Matt on, let's talk about First Class Counselors. As we've said in the promos for First Class Counselors, this is the show for you to pass on to your staff, to listen to find a show that your camp counselors can listen to and grow from. Matt, is there one show or idea that you'd like to highlight at this point? I know I'm putting you on the spot, and apologies for that.
No, it's all good. I think that the biggest thing about First Class Counselors is that we're really sensitive to the fact that camps run wildly differently from one another. Whether you're a day camp, an overnight camp, all of the things that we talk about are pretty universal concepts for a camp pro. We did one called supervision that keeps coming up in my head, and people have sent me emails about that. It's basically just how can you like stand on your cabin porch and look out over like free time at camp and know when there's a kid that needs a hand, and then what to do, how to take action on that. And there's no camp policy that's going to tell you that what we suggested is wrong to do. And this episode of CampHacker is coming out a little bit later. So the last couple episodes we did were very much like how to get ready for the summer focused. And, I think it's like 6 things from Oliver and I that camp counselors can do to be ready. And one of the things that we should be telling our staff now is like, get on your feet a little bit more. Oliver and I talked about getting proper shoes and just getting on your feet more. After a long pandemic, you probably haven't walked 20,000 steps a day, and you're going to do that as a camp counselor. So just those small little tidbits of preparedness for the summer. And these are things just to fire off to counselors and say, give it a listen, whether they actually listen or not. The ones that listen are the ones that you're going to want to come back year after year. So definitely send those out en masse, and you can find those at gocamp.pro/FCC.
Thank you so much. We know that this episode will be coming out when many of you are already running. You already have kids and staff at camp and be running. So it might be the kind of thing that you could find an episode to a counselor who needs a pickup, or a counselor who has expressed, how do I move up in this organization? How do I do more in my job? Send them First Class Counselors. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. We're grateful to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's a blast.
So Dan, thank you so much for being back on.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be with you all. It's just so nice to see everyone.
It's awesome. Take care, man.
Thank you.
Gabrielle, I'm so grateful for you and for all that you add to the show this year.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure to be speaking with everybody here.
Thank you. And Chris, we're grateful for all you give. Best of luck with Highlight this summer. Look forward to updates throughout the summer.
This has been epic. I love you guys. This has been fantastic.
Right on. Once again, if you have notes on the show, you can reach out to me on social media at gocamp.pro or email me, Travis, at gocamp.pro if you have any feedback or other ideas. We're grateful for you and hope everybody has a safe and happy summer. Thanks for the evening, friends.
The CampHacker podcast is brought to you by Beth and Travis Allison, summer camp leadership training and marketing consultants. Thanks for listening.
Hey, it's Travis. Camp directors often tell me they're just too tired to take on anything new. That's exactly why my free Resilient Camp Blueprint Diagnostic exists. It doesn't add work, it shows you progress. Quick, free, repeatable, you'll know if your systems are paying off without the guesswork. Try it today at camp.mba/Travis. That's camp.mba/Travis.